All right. So what we want to try to do now is attempt to um, build a workflow so that we can go all the way from like raw footage to well, not, I would say raw footage, but a raw video all the way to an uploaded video in 360 with spatial audio. That's the plan. That's going to be your project. So let's run through the kind of the tutorial on this. I think this is really important to kind of go through this workflow and develop like an understanding of all the tools that go along here, because there's a bunch of little ones in here, but it's because there's some quirks, and it's going to use a lot of the skills, hard and like, well, audio skills and computer skills that we've been talking about throughout the semester. So, and this is something that I think if you develop this, you can turn this into something that makes money. This is a really unusual, I won't say unusual, but a niche specialized skill set that you can actually profit from. So anyway, it's going to take a few different steps to go through this thing, and we're going to break it up into a few different videos just because it's kind of complicated. So step one is going to be just getting our audio set up, our audio working with the video. So the scenario is going to be that basically some production studio or somebody, or maybe you shoot it yourself. You go out and you create a bunch of video and you shoot some 360 video or content, or have an 360 animation. You get that from the content creator. Say it's a video house, or I don't know, somebody that has given you a 360 video. So your job is to turn that 360 video into something that you want to do all the audio post for this sort of thing. So that's essentially what this is how to build an audio post session. But not only that, is that you can follow through all the way and actually upload this and do the layback and encoding and all that kind of stuff that goes along with it. So we're going to be using FFmpeg a fair amount. Who'd have thunk we're going to use that? So let's get into it. So the first thing I'm going to do is bring up Reaper. Create a blank Reaper session right here. And I'm going to use this one right here. You can use any one you want, but I'm really highly recommend that you use the trains, this one right here. So we have a bunch of different stuff. You can see that I already have some Reaper stuff in there, but let me get rid of these just so it's a little cleaner, so we can talk about what's in that folder. So I've got two different versions of this, Basically what I did is I went out and shot two different scenes. Like this is the first scene, this is the second scene. This is the audio from the first scene, audio from the second scene, audio from the first scene, audio from the second scene. So this was done on the MixPre 6. This was done on the Zoom. The top two are the Zoom, the bottom ones are these ones here. So you can use whichever one audio you want. And I encourage you to actually go through and experiment with the different ones to see like if you like this one better or this one better. So we'll run through and use both of these as an example, see if we can actually hear the difference between the two of these. Yeah, let's do it. So first thing I'm going to bring in is I've got my Reaper session set up here. I'm going to save my session. Oops. Save my session. I'm going to save it to, I have a folder here called Merkle Video 360. Let's make a folder. I'm going to call this train 1, new folder. Just save it in here, call it train 1. Cool. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is bring in my video. So Reaper can just work with video files. And let's just do a quick inspection. The reason we're bringing this in here, because the truth is we're not going to really be using the video player in Reaper. If you were doing a regular post session using it would work the same as Pro Tools or something, where basically Pro Tools, it doesn't actually import the audio session or Nuendo or whatever you're using. It just references it and it plays it back with its own, well, I guess it plays it back with its own video playback system. But this system here is going to be, well, that works, but the problem with that is that if we where's my video window? So I know, I'm sorry, I still suck at Reaper. So my key commands, I don't know my shortcuts. I'm always looking for stupid windows and stuff like that, but I know how to do it. I just don't know where it is. But if I look up the window thing right here and we just press play, you see that indeed it's working, but it's showing us this isn't a 360 video player. So the challenge here is we're going to have to be working with a 360 video player that's not embedded inside of Reaper. And so we have to sync it to an outside system. And getting good with sync is huge, whether you're talking about a regular, stereo 5.1 or any kind of system. We haven't really hit on it in this class or even much in the program necessarily, but synchronization, especially when you're working with other systems, is a big deal. AV sync is a huge deal, and there's a lot of different ways to pull this off, but we're going to be using a pretty fancy schmancy one using the Facebook stuff today. So we know that that's working in there, but well, I guess let's also just take a quick look at the audio that's coming through here. If we listen to it, well, looks like it's a mono audio file. Is it really? get some info on this thing. And indeed, looking at this thing, if I just look at the more information, and if you're on Windows, it's a little bit different, but basically what I'm looking at here is it's a 3000 by 1920, so it's a 4K video. It's 4K because it's actually two 2K videos stuck together. So it's 1920 by 3840, so it's a big ass video. And then it's using AAC codec and H.264. So this is so when we were talking about algorithm. So this whole thing is inside of a .mp4 right here. So that's the container. And then inside the container, we have AAC audio with H.264 video. So that's what we're going to be working with. And it's important that we understand how that works, because we're going to have to continue understanding, working with that as we move along here. But here's what's interesting. Audio channels mono. So this camera only captures mono audio. So that's not really going to be very good in terms of like post-production, in terms of engagement. So this is a pretty interesting opportunity, because we have, they're like, people going out there capturing cool 360 video. I mean, it's cool if they're doing like sports stuff, just whatever at skate park or something like that. But if you want to actually make this thing immersive and make it engaging, this is something you can actually pretty easily upsell. I've spoken with Coop Studios up in Boulder, and I was asking about their spatial stuff, and they did a VR piece with National Geographic, and they said they had I won't say difficult time. They're really smart people. They know what they're doing with audio, but they had to go through a lot of hoops to jump through to figure out how to do all this stuff on the fly. So that's what this class is. We're kind of getting ahead of the curve on this. So what I'm going to do is make sure that this clip is all the way snapped to 0, because the video track is going to be our master track. We're going to slave everything off of that master track. So we have to be very, very aware of what is going on with that. So you can go through and listen to it. If you wanted to watch it, that's fine too. Now, let's make sure that's saved. For me, Reaper's been a little bit funky. It's been kind of crashing. So let's start with this first one here. This is just 4 tracks. So this is B format. So it's already coming in as a B format. Depending on what system and you're recording, you have to be careful, because sometimes it's going to be A format. But the MixPre, both the MixPre and the Zoom, they have the ability to set in the settings, I want this to be B format MBX. So that's what we want to do. So because this is going to be the one that is going to be the master track, we need to have everything else below that one. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim off these audio tracks, down the front of these audio tracks, because when I did this video, actually I'm going to snap, this is not to the grid, so I'm going to turn off the grid right here. If I look kind of closely here, and where did that video file go? What's the window for that? Shift Command V. So Shift Command V, if I press play right here, and you watch me kind of do my thing here. Cool. I did a quick little clap there. That was just for synchronization reasons, so that we have a reference point, so we can reference all these off of it. So I should have done it at the beginning of the track. That's usually where you do it. But I was hurrying to set this up. Basically, once you listen to this track a couple times, I was just got to the train station. I was starting to set this thing up, and a train came behind me. I was like, "Ooh, that's perfect!" And so I had to hit record really quickly before I had time to really set things up the way I wanted to. So I did my sync point at the end, which is not usually how you're supposed to do it, but I did it that way anyway. So what we need to do here is, I don't remember what the zoom commands are on this thing. I just have to use the scroll wheel because I can't remember. And you can see that in both these tracks right here, you can see a little bit of my clap right there. Zoom out a little bit. Where's that clap? Zoom in on that. There may be some better, faster shortcut ways to do this, but I don't know. At this point, I'm just going to have to go the old school, slow manual way. Let me make this window bigger. Okay. And let's stretch this out even yet a bit further. So if I go to the peak of this one, I don't know how to zoom in on nope, that's not what I wanted. I want to zoom in on the waveforms, but I don't know how to do that in Reaper, so I'm just going to have to kind of force it right now. But I can see that this peak right here correlates to this one. This is an inverted phase one. So again, when you're working with Ambisonics, it's all a relationship of phase and amplitude and all this stuff. So I'm guessing that is probably that one right. That goes big, small, big, small, up and down. So we could probably, you know, listen to it and get it closer, but because I'm not going to be using any production audio, there's not going to be any phase issues with something like that. So that's good enough for my case right now. I'm going to call that one good. I'm going to do the same thing with this one. Now remember, I think, I can't remember exactly for sure, but I think I hit record on the audio recorders first and the video recorder last. So these files are going to be longer than this one right here. So therefore you should trim off the front and then we'll pull it back to get into place. So strangely, this one is in phase on the top and this one's out of phase. Don't know why. Maybe the tracks got reordered or something's wrong. That's part of the game here. Okay, let's call it good. Save it. And now what we've got, so we've got a 4-track. Actually, I got to make sure that this is set to 4 tracks as well. So we're working with first order ambisonics. So first order ambisonics could be 4. What do they have this one set to? Track channel 2 is 4. Oh, whoops. I guess that one's 2. Doesn't matter. Cool. It automatically created 4 tracks for those. Good. Cool. So, you know, you basically want to have one of these muted or solid at a time, but let's go back to the top. Man, I gotta learn my key commands here. What is zoom in and out? So what's zoom in? If this is minus, is zoom out. Okay, it's plus minus. What's return to 0? That one I don't know. Maybe there's just a return to 0 there. Okay, so I just want to stretch these back out. We can see that correlates pretty well with what we've got in the tracks up there. Cool. So before we start adding video in, let's just give it a quick listen, make sure that it's actually doing what it's supposed to do. So this is a 4-track ambisonic track already to begin with, so we don't need to do any kind of encoding or decoding or anything. We may have to do some sort of positional change. So if I needed to rotate it, in other words, if the microphone was offset, so this is the front of the mic right here, and if this one was rotated for whatever reason, I can adjust this in post to work with this. Okay. But that's good. And now we want to go over here and we need to be able to listen to this thing. So what we're going to do is throw in, well, we have a bunch of different ones that we can use to listen to this thing. So I'm going to use the DRVR. We're going to talk in a different video about the different tools we have. Actually, let's do the, does this one work? I think it's let's start with the control. And so it's coming in and it's going to do this control room business. I don't think we really need to worry about that, but what we will need to use is some of this here. Does it do the binaural out? This is not what I'm looking for, but we will need this. Let's change this out. No. Sorry, I'm trying to find I know it's agony watching somebody else do this. Let's do the control converter. Yeah, let's do the converter. So it's coming in. It says third order. Doesn't really matter if we use third or like we could use second order. What it's just going to do is use the first tracks off of that. We want to go out binaural so we can actually hear this thing. So let's mute. I should not use mutes. I should be using solos instead. All right, so at this point, we can't really tell what's going on because we're working blind, but synchronized, it's working. We're getting binaural. It sounds to me like that train is kind of coming off to my back right, which if you watch the video, that's about where it was coming back from. So that seems to be about right. So let's just stick with that for right now and save often. So now what we've got is we've got our production audio synced with our production video, well, synced with our video. So what we need to do now is, that's weird. I must have turned that camera off, or that one off first. What I want to do is, let's get the video system set up and then we'll come back and talk about the audio. So let's shrink this down for just a minute and let's talk about how we get the video to sync with the audio, the 360, so we can actually kind of see what's going on there. If we wanted to, you could add a spatializer in here, but this one, because these are production audios, like I guess if we wanted to do the spatializer track, let's work with this one. What we could do is you could stick a video file in here, but we're not going to do that right now. So it's coming in as Ambisonic B format anyway. So there's nothing that you really want to do, but if we wanted to, I could reposition the image right here using source, roll, pitch, and yaw and envelopment. If I wanted to change something about that, I could change that. So this basically it's going to be your XYZ and just how big it sounds. I don't think we need to use that with this case, so I'm gonna get away from this one. So we'll just let this thing run raw without anything. Cool. All right, so the next order of business is we want to set up some video. So to do this, in my applications folder, there's a FE360 workstation. They have this thing called video player. So the video player is, open this up, and we can run this thing as a remote or we can run this as standalone. I showed before how to do this kind of as a standalone thing. In this case, we want to use it as a remote. So in other words, we've got a video controller that's going to be remote controlled by the transport inside of Reaper. And let's load this video file in. And kind of as mentioned before, we've got a problem here. H.264 is not a recommended codec. Read the documentation. I'm just going to go for it right now. I'm going to force it, but because I'm going to come back to this and do this as a separate video because it's a lot. So basically I just want to show this initial setup of this thing. And then we're going to go through and talk about the optimization, mix down, uploading, and all that kind of stuff. So let's just finish this thing out, force it. It's not going to like me doing this, but it's saying, how do I actually synchronize this thing? Basically what it's saying right now is that H.264, when you're doing 360 video, because it's so big, it's very tasking on the CPU to decode H.264. So what we want to use is DNxHD or DNxLR, I think is the one we're supposed to use. We'll see in a second. But we need to transcode the video into something else that we can actually work with. So let's take let's just say open. In this case, I can't connect to the DAW clock because right now it's not this clock right here. It doesn't know what it's supposed to sync to. So in here, we got FE converter, so we can listen to it. But let me move it down. If I add another effects, in this one we do control. So with this one right here, when I have control set up. Where's my little cursor thing? There it is. Make this just a touch bigger. So I want control to be above. I don't know how to reorder these. All right, I guess it doesn't really matter, but I feel like control should be upstream. I would think that I could reorder my plugins just by dragging them, but apparently not. Oh, there it did. Okay, I guess I got it to work. So let's take a look inside of control here. The global room, I don't think we really need that. Don't worry about that. We want to send timecode. This is the important part right here. And it says decode binaural frame delays, 25 frames per second. I think I was shooting at 30, so I'm not entirely sure what's going to happen there, but let's just let this thing do its work. Let's try to turn this binaural decoding off because I think that's coming from the converter over here. I want to use this for my binaural decoder, and this will be kind of, well, I guess we could try it both ways. So in this case, what this is going to do is control the video. So say open. Not going to like me, but now we have our video here. And indeed, it works. It's fuzzy looking, it's crappy, but it works. Now the problem, one of the things that the issues, so that train, that's this train over here. So right now the audio doesn't change with the video because the video player is controlling my perspective, and I can't tell this. It's not sending perspective and pitch, yaw, and roll head tracking information over here. So we just kind of have to guess at this point right now where things are going to be in the space, because we can't really control the video, but it does work. So we have the two of them talking. I want to try this. I haven't experimented with this. So what I want to do is turn the converter off. Let's bypass that for a moment and turn the binaural on here. See if this works. Yeah, it does seem to be working. So we can use, we don't need the converter. We can just use control. I was hoping it would send position information, but it does not. Bummer. Good to know. So we don't need the converter in there. We can just remove that. And we just use control for this one. So at this point, we now have a setup. So if I wanted to, and if I wanted to add some sort of sound effect in here, it's going to be weird. Well, I guess let's audition between the two different ones of these. There's going to be some amplitude difference. So it's up to you to decide what you want to use, which one you think sounds better. So this is going to be the mix pre. This is about, let's see, it's about a $2,500 setup. This is a $300 setup. Pretty impressive for $300 versus $2,500. Okay. At this point, I'm going to save my system, and so we're good. What we want to do now is add another track, and insert new track. And if I just wanted to add a sound effect, just some silly sound effect, let's go find some local media, sound effects libraries. Actually, let's just go off my storage. Got some, I don't have it on this thing very much. Huh. I guess I'll pull it from this drive. I wanted it to resample it, but it doesn't really matter. Let's just find it. I'm gonna find an explosion. See if we can find an explosion in here. Just gonna grab anything. Large explosion. Yes, that's what I want. Solo this one out so we can hear it. So this one, if we wanted to throw an explosion in there, let's throw another silly one in here. I feel like it didn't resample it, like on the import there. So I feel like it's playing a little high. Whatever. Okay, because this one is now going through stereo across over here into this binaural decoder, it's not going to work right. So we need to actually spatialize this one. So in this case, we do need the FP360 spatializer. I don't think it will. Well, I'm going to leave this one alone. I think there is a way you can actually load the video file in here and do the panning around, but I have not really spent much time with it yet. So I'm not going to worry about that one for right now. So this is a stereo track. So if I've got the left and the right, and I can decide where I want to put those. So maybe I want to put the right over here and the left over here. And if I wanted to, whoops. Cool, maximum distance, speed. I'm not doing any automation with this one. So you could do Doppler and room, because we're outside. I'm not going to add any room or anything to it. So if I were to just press play now. Let's get this closer. So if I want to put it in front of me. sounds like it came from behind me, but maybe that's just the way it sounds. Let's go on the right side. Make sure it's like farther away. And I don't have any elevation, so I could, if I wanted to, oops, I didn't mean to reset that. I could look at the elevation. So that's me, and that's the right, that's the left. So I could move this thing around if I wanted to. I think it's easier to control it with this one. Maybe I want that sound like, so looking at my perspective, I want it to sound like some sort of explosion happens off to the distance over at that construction site over there. So perspective wise, I mean, it's only 4 meters, so that's not far enough. Maybe there's like an explosion happens across the street here a little bit, so it's not gonna be too far. Yeah, good enough. I think we'll just stick with that for now. I do feel like it needs to gain up a little bit, but that's okay. Let's take it out of here. So what we're doing now is we're adding post-production right in, right? Oh, let's just turn these two off. Let's just use the mix pre one for now. Does it blend? Does it sound like it belongs in that scene? Probably not. But if you're having horses walk across and you're having voiceover, you're having music and all this kind of stuff, you could actually make it sound. So if I had an animation of an explosion happening over here, coupled with the video, and you actually, that would stay, if I'm working with head tracking, it's going to sound like it stays over in that same spot. Pretty magical, pretty cool. All right, so I'm just going to throw a random explosion there just because I think it's fun. Save this thing just because I want to work. So I want to work with both here. Why do I have effects on in that? Oh, it's just that. It's basically saying that we've got pre-spatialized B format, MBX format right there, and then we've also got some spatialized, like placed ones. So this is a good example of a post session. If maybe likely what's going to happen is if you're working with this stuff in real life, you're not going to have spatial audio. You're going to have to make a post session out of this stuff, and you're going to have to add all your elements and your people and you're walking by using that spatial panner, and that's fine. But this one we can do a combination of the two of them, or vice versa. If you're working, say, in a traditional 5.1 movie scene and you're given spatial audio, you can make it sound like you can use spatial audio with a non-spatial setup to decode it to where you want those spatial sounds to come from. Cool. Okay. Next order of business is let's get this thing so it's actually working the way we want it to. I think this will work, but let's take a look at how to optimize this video for what it's supposed to be doing. So let's pause there, and I'll come back and we'll take a look at some of this optimization stuff.